Hello divine souls, hello star souls who welcome to my channel. Welcome to an astro update on the full moon in Virgo. So the full moon, here it is, right, in Virgo, is taking place on March 18th, which is tomorrow, and it's gonna be a very interesting full moon because it's taking place in the opposite sign of Pisces, and we have a whole stellium in Pisces. We have dominant Neptune. We have very happy, I would say, dominant Jupiter, because I do consider the ancient rulers of the signs to be dominant in their ancient signs. But you could just say exalted or a very happy Jupiter, a very powerful Jupiter and Neptune placement, so Zeus and Poseidon. And then you have the Sun in Pisces. We have a lot of the masculine planets, the strong fiery masculine planets. One of them is Mars, but not so much as Jupiter and the Sun. Jupiter and the Sun are very exalted masculine archetypes in astrology. They're in the sign of Pisces, exalted love, exalted feminine energy. And also we have, Mercury, which is in between masculine and feminine, if you ask me. And then you have Neptune, which is like the high priestess in the natal chart in Pisces. So we do have a lot of psychic energy going on. And it's all channeled by this full moon in Virgo, which Virgo is the divine feminine on Earth. The practical, material, physical expression on Earth. Now, what's another interesting thing about this chart is we have a bucket chart. What does that mean? You look at the planets and they create a shape in the chart, and the shape of the full moon in Virgo is like that. You have this right here, and when you have all planets on one side of the chart, even in close proximity overall with each other, you don't consider the nodes, by the way. You don't consider Lilith or part of Fortune. You don't look at these points. They're not actual planets. You only look at the planetary bodies, compared how they relate to each other in shapes. And you have this shape, and then you have one planet. In our case, this is the moon. But when you have one planet sitting alone at the other side of the chart and all of the other planets gathered at the opposite side, this is when you have a bucket chart. This is what it's called. And a bucket chart means that all of these planets that are gathered together will be channeled through the one singular planet, the one planet sitting alone, and that is the moon in our case. And it's so powerful because it's a full moon. It's not just the moon, it's a full moon, which means that it's interacting with the sun, like the star that all the planets circle around. So we have this one channeler being in a very important connection, having a very important conversation with the big boss in the natal chart. So the divine feminine and the divine masculine are communicating on some very important spiritual topics. And the theme is, how do I translate psychic energy in a practical service? How do I give a practical outlet to all that I'm getting intuitively, to all that I'm feeling intuitively? So much Pisces, like globally, the collective may get visions, they may get higher inspiration, prophecy, a lot of abstract, metaphorical, symbolical, psychic visions and intuitive channelings. That's what you're going to get. But the full moon in Virgo is asking you, how do I put this into a practical purpose, into practical work? How do I make this useful so it can serve the betterment of humanity? Because we are very focused on humanity right now. As much as we're focusing on ourselves, that is always like a thing. we should be very focused on how our being, our entity supports the global collective, because look at what is going on. You have Aquarius, stellium. I mean, I know Pluto is in Capricorn still, but even Capricorn is a global sign because it's about tradition, it's about established order, foundations, authorities. You have Aquarius, a stellium in Aquarius, a stellium in Pisces, and then you have Uranus, which is a generational Aquarian planet. It's the ruler of Aquarius, in Taurus. And Taurus is about resources. It's about nature, it's about food, and this affects all of us. We are all part of nature. We are all part of the natural cycle. So Uranus and Taurus, economics as well, all of these things affect us on a global scale. So Virgo, or the full moon in Virgo, will preoccupy us with, how can I help? What can I do? So let's discuss a couple of points. I think that this full moon is highlighting. I'm looking at my notes, by the way. If you hear me being silent or something, it's because I'm reading through my notes. So the first thing, oh yeah, another thing, before I go into the points, I want to note something. Now, the full moon in Virgo will ask us to be useful and helpful to humanity, as I mentioned, through the divine feminine expression. So we are finding ways in which, when we are in our divine feminine energy, we're healers, we're intuitives, we're empaths. We don't feel like we're slaves, and the work that we do is slavery, or we are servants, or we are being used or abused, because Virgo can be the archetype that is abused, right? It's the servant after all. And when we're in our divine feminine energy, we're learning how to take a lot of power from that, with the Sun, Jupiter being in Pisces, and not feel like we're slaves, but to feel empowered when it comes to partaking in world events through the divine feminine expression, meaning healing, empathy, psychic work, even alternative medicine, things like that, like very feminine services. Okay, I'm not trying to be very, definitive with genders and stuff, but these are principles that are expressed in certain ways, and the feminine is expressed in certain ways. So all of these feminine expressions of help, and all of these feminine labors, let's say, the things that the feminine is kind of naturally prone to do, how do we use that to support humanity on a global scale and feel empowered in that expression, instead of feeling like it's a weakness? Virgo is an earth sign. Although being feminine, it's an earth sign. It's a very logical, analytical sign, and it's now interacting with Jupiter, Neptune, the Sun. It's interacting with very powerful planets. So this is about strengthening our psyche. This full moon in Virgo is about strengthening our psyche and embracing the strengths of the divine feminine, seeing her within us as powerful, strong, and capable to do the job, because Virgo is also about doing the job. So yeah, this is very powerful full moon, if you ask me. Now, so yeah, basically we're claiming our power when it comes to the things we want to express that are considered divine feminine energy. We're not feeling weakened by those things, we're feeling empowered by them, or we're learning. The full moon is asking us to find ways to feel empowered. Feel empowered as a healer, as an empath. Find ways to use these abilities in a practical way so that you can see their purpose, so that you can gain confidence. Okay, now let me cover the points I've noted in my little essay I wrote down about this full moon. So first things first, define your purpose. I wrote down the full moon point, define your purpose. The moon is opposing Neptune, which is very telling of giving a definition to our exalted dreams and visions for the future, our idealistic hopes. For most people, the exalted visions about the future usually translate to being important, doing something important, doing something purposeful. That's why I think the moon opposition to Neptune is about define your purpose. So giving a nice concrete answer to the question, how am I useful, or what's my purpose, what am I supposed to do, giving a concrete answer and not scattering around can be very healing for the nervous system. You will calm down, because a lot of us can experience anxiety around, am I doing enough? Is what I'm doing practical? Is what I'm doing building towards momentum? Is what I'm doing useful? If the answer is no, or I don't know, I'm so confused, if you're very confused about your purpose, you may suffer anxiety. That's why it's important to narrow down one specific answer, one concrete goal that you are going after with what you're doing. One specific service, like a niche that you're contributing to when it comes to society, when it comes to your tasks, everyday responsibilities, and so on and so forth. Whether it is I am supporting my family or I am supporting my students, whatever it is, you need a concrete answer, and you need to reaffirm to yourself that what you're doing is important, because Pisces can make you feel lost and very confused, and give you these exalted dreams that kind of undermine everything else you've been doing that's more practical and more more down to earth. Pisces can make you feel like certain things are, especially because we have a whole wave, a whole stellium of Piscean energy that's like a tsunami hitting us. So we could be hit by this tsunami telling us, you could be so much greater, or look at the bigger picture. Like how are you contributing to the bigger picture? You're not doing anything about the bigger picture. Pisces can challenge us because it can make us feel like we're not doing enough, or we're not spiritual enough, we're not grandiose enough in the ways we serve, in the ways we sacrifice ourselves. And the full moon in Virgo is actually telling us, if you want to be of great service to the world, you gotta take care of yourself individually. Virgo is the adult, it's adulting energy, it's the individual. It's the first sign that actually starts to be responsible. I mean, Cancer is very home-oriented, it seeks family and comfort. Leo is self-oriented. Virgo is the first sign that starts to take a responsibility for itself, but also for the work that it does and how it impacts other people. Okay, so define our purpose, that's important. And talking about adulting, the next point I want to discuss about the full moon in Virgo is prepare for adulting. This full moon is a preparation stage. We are prepping the soil, the territory, if you will, to take action when the new moon in Aries comes along. Although I feel taking action now can also be helpful and give us confidence that we're doing the right thing, it's important to not overdo yourself, like not overdo something, and just really, really prepare the stage. Prepare yourselves, cultivate your energy so that you have enough when the new moon in Aries kicks in. Don't overdo it, take action, but be conscious of it, don't burn out. The next thing, full moon in Virgo, create systems. Make it simple, make it easy if you want to make it work. The Pisces grandiose visions can make us confused on how to approach a task, how to approach a target, a goal, and we may procrastinate because we don't have practical basic steps, we don't have a plan. So create a system that is simple, that is easy. I've written down, it's almost natural to go into an existential crisis right now, or to make a lot of your life elusive, difficult to grasp on, and thus feel like you're losing control. And when you feel like you're losing control, you actually do. Eventually, feelings turn into real actions, feelings turn into reality. Oh, wait, sorry about that. I think the screen was very low brightness. I'm sorry, I hope you saw the chart up until now. So yeah, Pisces can make us feel like we don't have control, so we just naturally decide, let it go. It's so natural to go with the flow with so much Pisces energy. But I think the full moon in Virgo is telling us no more procrastination, no more going with the flow. Simplifying the ways in which you control or discipline yourself can be super beneficial, meaning you're not hardcore forcing yourself to do the job or to do what you gotta do. Like a Virgo can be a bit obsessed with the details and the perfection of how they take action. Use the balance between the Virgo and Pisces axis, meaning you go with the flow because you listen to the body rhythms, you listen to your energy, but also when you feel like you don't have enough energy to overdo it, you just find a simple way. So you don't burn out under pressure for perfection, but you still work little by little on the details for the sake of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture will realize itself in the long run, and you should trust that. Don't buy into the mentality go big or go home. Go small and reach home eventually. Okay, that is the mentality we need. So don't try to find quick fixes. You need a system. You need a system that works out softly. It doesn't force you too much, but it's easy on you, but it continues to work for the long term. I mean, it doesn't stop. So no more rest. It's just that we're not burning out. That's what we're learning. And I know it can be difficult. Okay, clean and organized, that is obvious. Clean and organized with a full moon in Virgo. If you want to organize your wild imagination with that Pisces energy hitting us, you need to cleanse your space, make your environment organized and clean, and again, practical. Like, make your environment practical, make it supportive of your goals. You don't want to binge watch Netflix, don't turn on your TV, or don't go in the room where you have a TV on, or log the app on your computer or tablet, whatever it is. Make your environment a cue for healthy habits, okay? Detox and purify. We do need to, as I mentioned, overcome the tsunami waves of Pisces. If you overwater a plant, it will still die, although you're giving it something that is apparently good for the plant, right? Water, it needs water, but too much is too much. So I definitely think too much of a good thing is not a good thing, and that is a dynamic we should watch out for. So too much of a healthy habit can become compulsive obsession. Too much of a procrastination or self-care habit can bring us into a rut. So you really need a very fine balance between rest and work, between imagination and practicality and analytical thinking, between basically positivity and skepticism. You know, I would think that Pisces versus Virgo, like this axis, is about rose-colored glasses versus skepticism disguised as realism. Like, yeah, you may think you're being realistic, but are you actually skeptical? Use that Pisces energy to uplift your mood and have hope. And that hope will come from a practical place of Virgo, which is, I have hope because I know I'm doing the steps, I'm doing the work bit by bit, and I will eventually get where I want to be. Another thing with Virgo full moon is I had a vision of herbs and greens, so trying out holistic medicine can be very powerful at this time. If nothing ever worked to heal a chronic issue or something, this time it may actually work. Also, consuming a lot of teas and a lot of greens can be very beneficial for the body and for the nervous system and for the mind. So, let's see. I'm also getting there is a lot of earth energy. We have Pluto in Capricorn, we have Uranus in North Node in Taurus, and now we have the full moon in Virgo, and we have this trine energy between the earth signs. So I think of a lot of fertility, I think of a lot of growth, and I don't mean this realistically speaking. I know it's kind of like I've intended this, but what I'm feeling is fertility after war, or like after a storm that demolished everything. Trees and plants are finally growing back up. That's what I'm seeing with so much earth energy and with very transformative planets like Pluto and Uranus and earth signs trining. The earth planet Saturn is in Aquarius, which is transformation as well. Venus is in there. So yeah, there is an exchange between revolution and the earth, like thunder, storm, aggressive wind, aggressive air energy, and the earth and solid rocks. It's like water and air are working together to destroy the material earth, okay, the soil, the plants, the rocks. Water and air are paving a way, a new way, into the soil, into the rocks for, upcoming fiery energy and fire seasons to give us this fresh life force. I feel like there is this interesting play between the elements where I feel the element of water and air are transforming deeply everything that is very, very dense, which metaphorically would be expressed by the earth element, to make room for fire, for knowledge, wisdom, new knowledge, new wisdom, new waves of souls to incarnate. That's what's going on as well. And this is like a longer process, of course, but this full moon in Virgo kind of aligns with this process very well. It's a very nice astrological event. Even though the full moons and the new moons are very regular, we may take them for granted a little bit. I still think that this one fits perfectly what is needed at this time. So yeah, I do see growth and fertility after the storm. I see purification of the earth. So what's taking place globally is, you may not like it, but this is a purification, and we'll also have a purification of the physical body. Virgo may force us to detox our bodies through some sort of diet or something, and it's so very metaphysical. It's like the planet is experiencing that, and it's very physicality, and so are we. We are cells of the planet. We are parts of the planet. Our physical bodies that give us shelter, or that give, exactly, Virgo Pisces, the physical body that gives a functional expression to the soul in the 3D. That's what's going on here. Our physical body are needing purification, and they will experience everything that the planet is going through. So empathy, I think, will be achieved even on a physical level. Empathy will become very physical, and many of you will feel global events and global shifts in the body. So pay attention to any physical symptoms and treat the emotions first to have a better physical healing as well. I'm looking through my notes again. Yeah, now is a great time to connect with your spirit guides, you guys, with your higher power, with the higher sources of wisdom that you look up to. It's a great time to ask for energetic support from your guides. Now that is more of a, esoteric perspective on what's going on in the natal chart. It's just great to do that. It's great to feel like you can rely on your spiritual team, and that they can actually help you in a very physical way. I do think that we're understanding, because there is a shift. Okay, there is a shift that we may all notice right now. I think if you pay attention, you will all notice that the planet shifted recently, and now everything mental and emotional manifests super quickly, much more quickly than ever before. And that can be a scary thing, right? But it can also be very relieving, because we now realize that the spiritual powers we work with have much more influence over our physical lives, and they can actually help us. So I want you to start trusting your team, just like you trust your friends, just like you trust that when you go to the gym, you're gonna gain muscles and lose weight and things like that, or gain weight, whatever. Just the way you trust any physical action to bring a physical outcome, the full moon in Virgo will ask us to trust any spiritual action to bring a physical outcome. Spirituality can translate into the physical plane just as physical actions translate on the physical plane. And that is actually, we're accessing the suit of wands in tarot on an energy level, because wands are action, right? And action can be taken, or it can have consequences in the physical only, but action starts in the spiritual. So we're accessing this fire energy, we're accessing the fire element, but as I said, earth and water are making way through the earth, air and water are making way through the earth to channel fire on a new level. I'm going to go more in depth on this in another update, but that's just kind of a highlight that definitely Virgo and Pisces is channeling here. So I wanted to mention it. Yeah, we are awakening to a practical way of doing spirituality, and no longer being enslaved by the material. We're finding much more freedom within the material plane, is what I'm feeling, because this full moon in Virgo is taking place in the third decan of Virgo, which is Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. So we're finding much more pleasure and playfulness and joy in the routines or the rituals and our spiritual practices.